Penguin Random House Audio presents The Finnish Way, Finding Courage, Wellness, and Happiness Through the Power of Sisu, by Katja Pantzar. Read for you by Karin Cass.
Introduction. Large fluffy white snowflakes are falling from the night sky as three young men wearing terry cloth bathrobes run down a Helsinki street on a dark November evening. The crisp, quiet air fills with the sound of their boisterous laughter and the crunch of snow under their slipper-clad feet. For local residents, this is not an unusual sight. But for a relative newcomer like me, it's a striking scene to witness, especially against the urban backdrop of a capital city. They sprint past the elegant centuries-old apartment blocks and head towards the water. On a small island just a stone's throw from downtown Helsinki, the presidential palace and the upscale design boutiques that line the esplanade, these three young men are racing towards a nearby dock from where they will swim. Over the time that I've lived here in the far north, I've heard about winter or ice swimming, the practice of taking dips in icy cold water in pursuit of its purported health benefits, which range from boosting immunity to reducing fatigue and stress. As wild and crazy as the idea of voluntarily plunging into the Baltic Sea sounds, I decide at that moment that I must try it at least once. For those young men exude a joyful energy and hardiness that seems inextricably linked to their pastime. To my great surprise, when I eventually give it a try a few years later, winter swimming completely changes my life. By providing, over time, a natural remedy for the bouts of bone-crushing depression that I have suffered from since childhood, my icy dips, along with other elements of the Nordic lifestyle, help me to find my Sisu, a unique Finnish form of resilience and perseverance in the face of adversity. This special courage arms me with tools to turn around my well-being and create a lifestyle that at last allows me to take charge of my life for the first time ever. As I explore this concept of Sisu, my journey of discovery is both personal and professional. As a writer and journalist, I'm keenly interested in what makes people tick and curious about how they take care of their health and well-being. Why do some people seem to thrive no matter what life throws at them, while others often seem to be hard done by? On a personal level, as someone who has struggled with depression and anxiety, I feel that this unique culture of resilience helps me transition from being a weaker, more passive person scared of trying new things into someone who feels better and stronger, both physically and mentally. Fast forward to 2017, and I'm standing on the wooden dock that juts out into the Baltic Sea, the same spot that those young men were headed for so many dark nights ago. Although the mercury hovers around -10 degrees Celsius, I'm wearing only my bathing suit, a wool hat, and neoprene, a kind of synthetic rubber, slippers and gloves. As I climb down the metal ladder leading to a large hole of about 3 by 3 meters cut into the thick ice, I can see the city lights in the distance, fringing the inky darkness. When I lower myself into the water, the cold shock, it's about 1 degree Celsius, hits me. During the first few strokes, it feels like hundreds of pins and needles are pricking my body. The pricks are soon replaced by a feeling of euphoria. I'm alive! Following an invigorating swim of about 30 seconds, I pause for a moment at the bottom of the ladder, immersed up to my neck in the frigid water, before I climb back up onto the dock. By now, I have become a regular winter swimmer. I often take a quick dip on my way to or from work. Some might say I've developed an addiction, but I believe it's a healthy one. According to experts, a 30-second to 1-minute dip has many of the same health benefits as going up and down stairs for 15 to 20 minutes. My cold water cure also boosts the hormones that are linked to feeling good, such as endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. The practice is also known to improve the immune system's resistance, enhance circulation, burn calories, and reduce stress. As I walk up towards the shorefront building that houses the separate men's and women's saunas, showers, and changing rooms, the rush of endorphins takes over, and I no longer feel cold. My anxieties, stress, fatigue, and aches and pains have been left in the sea. In their place, I feel a natural high as my body tingles all over, followed by a rush of warmth, and I get a surge of energy that makes me feel almost invincible. Winter swimming has helped me tap into a deep reserve of strength and resilience I didn't know I possessed. Gone is the insecure, tired, want-to-pull-the-covers-over-my-head version of me. Where weakness once reigned, I've discovered my sense of Sisu, the psychological power that allows me to pull myself together even when I feel mentally and physically depleted. My fellow cold water swimmers share the fantastic rush of endorphins and the triumphant feeling that comes post-dip. I'm greeted by exuberant, smiling people, contrary to the stereotypes of somber Finns, boasting about how good they feel. On this particular Thursday evening, I have time to enjoy a post-swim treat, warming up in the quintessential Finnish steam bath, the sauna. Peeling off my swimsuit, hat, gloves, and slippers, I rinse off in the shower before stepping into the women's sauna, where I ladle water from a bucket onto the stove's hot rocks. I sit in quiet meditation and bask in the warmth of the hot steam for a moment before joining in conversation with the other women who are sitting on the sauna's wooden benches. If someone had told me 10 or even 5 years ago that my ideal night out would involve jumping into icy seawater, I would have laughed out loud. My former life in Toronto was far removed from nature's elements and did not include much self-care. My Thursday nights were comprised of little that could be described as wellness-related. A typical cocktail-fueled night out with my media colleagues included stops at members-only bars and clubs. More often than not, that was preceded by some celebrity spotting at a launch or press event. I once shared a lift with actor Chris Noth, best known at the time as Mr. Big on the hugely popular Sex and the City TV series. Another evening I sat next to David Schwimmer, Ross on the hit sitcom Friends, while marvelling at how very petite the actress Minnie Driver, who was at the same party, was in real life. While I'm a fan of both SATC and Friends, the notion that I once measured the success of a night by the number of drinks downed and VIPs spotted seems a lifetime ago now. Yet an obsession with celebrity culture infused just about every aspect of life back then. Growing up in North America, it seemed perfectly normal, de rigueur in fact, that the majority of people I knew were on an endless quest for the magic self-improvement solution, usually in the form of an expensive and complicated new diet or exercise regime that would help them lose weight, get in shape, look and feel better, and work more efficiently. If the new regime was celebrity-endorsed so that we might look like the stars, even better. At the time, I shared the collective angst of many of my North American friends. I felt I was never skinny enough, beautiful enough, or rich enough. It seemed to me that most of my problems would be solved if I could somehow magically achieve all three of those things. I also shared another kind of anxiety, one that embarrassed me greatly, for I erroneously perceived it to be a sign of weakness when I first received my diagnosis in my mid-20s. Depression. Initially, I made a doctor's appointment, convinced I had a grave, life-threatening illness or some type of autoimmune disease. My symptoms had continued for weeks on end. I had no appetite, I was listless, I felt exhausted all the time but could not sleep, and none of the things that had previously brought me joy seemed to matter anymore. As I spoke with the sympathetic doctor, who ran a battery of medical tests, and asked about what else was going on in my life, I began to cry. While I wept, I told her that the end of a serious romantic relationship had left me feeling very upset and as though I had failed somehow. That feeling of deep disappointment sparked a downward spiral, and I started to view other aspects of my life from a similar perspective of ineptitude. Around the same time, a family friend passed away after a long battle with cancer. Their death deeply rattled me in a way that I could not fully explain at the time. I later learned that a traumatic or stressful life event, such as the end of a relationship, losing a job, or the death of a loved one, can precipitate a depressive episode. If several triggers take place in a short space of time, it can increase the risk. It can happen to anyone. I also know now that depression is incredibly common. The World Health Organization estimates that 300 million people worldwide suffer from it, but I didn't understand this at the time. While I...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?